what about butter and its vegan alternative, vegan spread? In general, it's best to limit and eliminate butter consumption and to avoid partially hydrogenated oils. In just one stick of butter, we have 58 grams of saturated fat. That's more than 3 times a male's maximum per day. And in just 1 tablespoon, 7 grams. That's almost half. That's only one spread of the knife, a big piece of butter and toast. That's half of the limit for saturated fat a day. So watch your butter intake or eliminate it entirely. Another thing, trans fats, which is similar to saturated fats in terms of its damage on our health, but it causes much more damage. So as we see, we have the most trans fats in margarines and spreads. So it's important to stay away from the margarines in terms of trans fats. So it's important to make sure that it doesn't have the partially hydrogenated oils. So look in the ingredients. And we also see the most in shortenings, and we have a lot in butter and in other products as well. So vegan spreads. It contains healthier unsaturated fatty acids, as we can see from this kinked chain of the long chain fatty acid. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy, but it's better than dairy butter. So let's look at this chart. We see on the top here shortenings, creams, and baked apple pie, and many other products are loaded with trans fats. Now we should have 0 to none trans fats in our diet, so make sure to avoid these products. And I'm not saying fat is bad. In fact, we should have, in terms of total fat, between 4 to 5 tablespoons of liquid vegetable oil, like olive, soybean, etc., to meet our 20 to 35% of total calories. It's largely healthy for insulating our nerves and for our phospholipid bilayer, like we'll see in our cells. We need fat, so we need to stick with the organic olive, soybean, canola, and other vegetable oils. So tropical oils, let's look at this. It's largely in vegan spreads and products. As my Jaja would say, let's put on our glasses so that we can see what the studies actually have to say about even vegan fats. So when looking at studies with palm oil, it seemed to have no substantial difference on our lipid profile. A higher risk of developing a heart attack in comparison to soybean oil, with an odds ratio of 1.33. So that's 33% higher risk of getting a heart attack with palm oil and coconut oils over soybean and sunflower and other cooking oils. Generally, if we look at studies that we've known for 70 years from the Harvard School of Public Health, replacing saturated fats, which is the main fat in coconut oil, is safe, proven, and a delicious way to cut the rates of heart disease. So unsaturated fats found in olive oil and all these other vegetable oils are much healthier for us in terms of preventing heart disease. So we see that coconut oil and palm oil has the same effects on our LDL cholesterol, which is the type of cholesterol that's generally considered not to be good on us. It raises the LDL cholesterol, while our vegetable oils lower LDL cholesterol. While better than animal fats, they should be used sparingly. Optimally though, it's best to have our unsaturated fats from foods like avocado, olive oil, flaxseed, walnut. We'll talk about salmon and fish later. So hydrogenated oils could be found in our vegan spreads and in other spreads as well. and in all of these other products actually. So it's important to make sure that we have no hydrogenated oils, because it's bad for our health and it builds up in our arteries and can cause heart attack, stroke, and many other problems that we don't want. So, quick note on vegan sour cream: try to find one without the things we've been talking about, or make your own. It's largely much better for you and probably tastes better. So, as we can see from the Mediterranean diet that replaces butter with nuts and olive oil, that they have a much lower chance of getting diseases, largely because of the reduction in butters and dairy and processed and red meats and sodas. So as we see, they're cutting out a lot of the unhealthy saturated and trans fats from their diet, leaving a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and olive oil, over 4 tablespoons a day. So we see that you can still have plenty of fat and still be much healthier. So we'll see some of the relative risks. So we see with olive oil, your risk of getting stroke is 0.67. So that's roughly 33% lower risk of getting a stroke just from having a Mediterranean diet with olive oil, and even lower with nuts. So it seems that the more plant foods we add to our diet, the lower our risks of getting stroke, and as well as heart disease, or heart attacks and heart disease, and death in general. So from the Healthy Eating Plate, which I recommend over the My Plate from the Harvard Medical School, says to include healthy oils like olive and canola for cooking, and to limit butter and avoid trans fat. We also see to limit milk and dairy to 1 to 2 servings a day, but even that 2 is a high number, so maybe less than 1 or 0 optimally, and only 1 small glass of juice per day, and avoid sugary drinks. Bones require generally 3 nutrients, and they can be found in many different foods, but they're highly concentrated in our dairy products that we see. So with over 2 glasses of milk, our risks of fracture actually increase. Now, this may run contrary to your thinking on how calcium may be beneficial for our bones, but as we see, our bone mineral density actually increases naturally throughout adolescence, and it's largely due to genetic factors. So the first nutrient is calcium. This is a chart of the recommended amount of calcium that we should have throughout our life, but we'll soon see that even as low as 300 milligrams of calcium, which is much lower than our current recommended values of over 1,000 milligrams, especially during our ages 9 to 18 and over 71. It's much lower, yet they have the lowest bone fracture rates. I mean, in India, Japan, and Peru, because bones largely rely on a different nutrient, vitamin D. It is what regulates, as well as the parathyroid glands, it regulates our calcium levels and good sources of calcium. We see that in a lot of enriched grains today and orange juice, that we have a lot more calcium available today, and a lot more vegetables that are loaded with calcium. And yes, I put sardines on here for now, and I put this block of tofu. I can't glamorize it, but when you chop it up and you put it in a stir fry, it tastes delicious. It blends nicely with all the other flavors in the dish. So phosphorus is the second nutrient that our bones need to be healthy. And while there's a ton of it in cheese, there's much less in milk and yogurt. But it's essential for energy production. So we'll see for this phosphate right there, phosphorus. And when it combines with calcium, it forms this calcium phosphate salt. That's the main mineral that's in our bones that keeps it strong. Vitamin D is one of the main nutrients that contributes to bone health, and it's associated with reduction of vertebral fractures. And deficiency results from avoiding the sun. Even too much vitamin D from supplements, for example, can have adverse effects. Here are some points on how vitamin D production happens in our skin, actually. The more exposure we have, the more vitamin D we can produce. And there are many different types of skins that varies by how long it takes to produce it. So I encourage you to look at your skin type and you can see how long it might take you to get your vitamin D on a daily basis.